News.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were. And it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result.
All right, stay there.
Part of the Marriott...
Back it up about 10 seconds. When we come back after this quick break, I'm going to finish the clip. Then we have Aaron Brown, 40 minutes before this, saying it had fallen, reading a script. And he looks behind him because he's from New York. And it's going, it's right there. See, all scripted. We'll be right back. But the bigger issue here is we've been telling the truth from the beginning that it was all over the news. They were going to blow up 7. Then they demolished it and then said, we never said that. And then Silverstein came out and said, no, we did have a controlled demolition. Then he said, oh, I didn't mean that. And now the media just shift gears again and said, okay, we were talking about blowing it up. It would have been easy to wire it up, but we didn't. It magically fell on its own. When every independent demolition expert that looks at it on record says, my God, that's a beautiful controlled demolition. Only, top experts can do that. Only a handful of companies. They tried to blow up the Intel building here in Austin that they built the skeleton of, but then Intel pulled out of Austin. When they blew it up a few years ago, it failed. A top firm, it failed. What was that building, 15 stories? They couldn't even blow it up? Continuing, let's go back to BBC reporting Building 7 has fallen the exact way it did fall, with the whole script, before it fell. And then, when We Are Change England confronted the BBC reporter that's talking to Jane Stanley, I said Jane Graham because we had her on earlier in the week, he said, I don't remember that. I was taking my son to football that day. I wasn't at work on 9/11. And they said, excuse me? And then he got real slick and went, oh, okay, I was there. Clear operative. I mean, most of these guys at big national level are intelligence ops. And he suddenly looks at the crowd and goes, it is quite curious, isn't it? You little people. He didn't add that last part. It is quite curious. Actually, I was reporting that day, all day. Now I remember. Thank you for reminding me. I mean, it is so sick because all that matters is his house, his family, his money. And it's a bunch of political prostitutes. Let's finish the clip.
What more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers...
BBC, the reason I knew it was a transcript is BBC 24, this is BBC World, almost had the exact same words, and so did CNN. See, they were all given a script, and it was confirmed, Reuters, internal news feed, right through the Pentagon, to them. See, I'm not a genius, folks, but I work in the media. And I knew it was the same script, same time. This was scripted. They were given disinfo. They screwed up. They said, get the press release ready. We're getting ready to blow this thing. Tell them it fell on its own. We're going with a new plan. We're not saying we're blowing it. That's too suspicious. No one can wire a building, in a few minutes. They'll catch us. We're just going to say it fell on its own. We're going with that. We're going with that. And then they got the release out. It's so incredible. I could just go into their minds. Let's finish the clip.
Down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of the Marriott hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110 floors of the two twin towers of the World Trade Center. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke
And there's
ash.
7.
We know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline.
And there's the building.
Symbol of the financial
Hit
prosperity.
pause. And the disinfo ops came out and said, we lied, that wasn't real video, and said that 7 had fallen in the video. But now, because we've proven it to the public, they're going, okay, we were talking about blowing it up. Nothing to see here. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Move along, move along. Little Jedi mind trick on the public. Okay? So we have another reporter from Fox News saying, yeah, we were there. They were talking about blowing it up. What's the big deal? But we didn't blow it up. And Silverstein never said they were going to blow it up. I mean, think about this. We'll be right back. Stay with us with more. In 1938, Joseph Goebbels, who came to power with Hitler as his propaganda minister, firebombing their own capital, another staged event. You can pull up his quotes. I've read many of the papers he wrote. He gave speeches saying, to his propaganda corps, lies don't have to be good. They have to speak to people's laziness and their fear. And so make it simple. And so that's what they do. I mean, they blow the building up in front of you. They've got different stories going. First they were going to announce it, then they weren't. And this article by Watson, great job by Paul Watson, goes on and on and on through all the other eyewitnesses and Greg Bartmer and police officers and people. Not just the videos from CNN cops saying they're bringing it down, get back, that building's about to blow up, boom, 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 it falls. But just all these other witnesses and all the other facets and the points. We're not safe as a society unless we start facing up to evil. But people think if they play the mind game, the mental mind game of denying something's going on, it makes it go away. It doesn't make it go away. It only gets worse. And now you've got Limbaugh and Michael Savage and others coming out and saying, especially Savage, that he believes Obama's going to stage terror attacks to blame it on us. And Clinton's out there saying there's about to be bombings. It's going to be your fault. You better shut up and do what we say. And the ADL saying arrest people that criticize Obamacare, basically. And the rhetoric's really getting bad. Well, yeah. I mean, of course the government did Oklahoma City. That evidence is even more voluminous than 9/11. Absolutely red-handed on every front. But politicians come and go. Bill Clinton, George Bush, all these people. When you understand the military mind and you understand the Pentagon mind, 99.99% of them aren't involved in these things. But over and over again, the Pentagon stages terror attacks, even on their own forces, that's in Northwoods, to kill our own troops, to get them angry at a foreign enemy. But it's even worse than that. It is stated West Point and Army War College doctrine of collateral damage and acceptable losses. It goes back to chess, invented in Persia 4,000 years ago. You sacrifice a pawn. It's called a gambit. And it's taught 101 in field officer, captain, and above that, hey, you got 1,000 people under you. You're a colonel. You're taking orders from a general. Don't tell your men this, but go ahead and send 10 or 15 of them into an area, knowing they're going to get killed, but it'll draw out the enemy, and then you'll be able to kill the enemy and save more of your force. Because if you send your whole force in, you'll end up losing 10, 20, 30 times, potentially, what you'll lose if you just sacrifice 10 men. And once you buy into that, America's got to get tough. It's not going to fight the Islam threat unless we do this. That's why we're doing this. That's the argument. That's what they say in Northwoods. Well, our country won't face the communist threat, and we need to do it, so we're going to stage terror attacks, bomb D.C., bomb Miami, kill U.S. troops at bases, and blame it on the commies. We're going to have nuclear war with them. And Kennedy said, no, I'm firing L.L. Lemnitzer and Curtis LeMay and all the rest of you. And they said, no, we're firing you. Dead. And then it was declassified 2 months ago by the State Department. This is mainstream news, that Bobby Kennedy disagreed with his brother and that he was for staging events. But he wanted to do it in Latin America. I mean, that's how standard this is. 2004, they declassified the manual being used up until this date. But we don't know past this date, past 2004, but it was the current manual, where they teach Army captains in Black Ops, you can go read it, how to stage false flags. You're outnumbered by a force in a guerrilla situation, you stage a false flag against the people you're trying to protect to motivate them to get behind what you're doing for the greater good. That's how we win. Yeah, that's how you win, isn't it? With that pawn sacrifice. 3,000 people. That's what PNAC and separately Zbigniew Brzezinski said. 3,000 dead to launch the empire.